Elizabeth Provencio, and I, along with Travis Richardson to my right, will be your MCs for the evening. We hope that you enjoyed the day's presentations, that they were thought-provoking, and that you're looking forward to tomorrow. So with that, I will turn the mic over to Mr. Richardson, who will introduce Reverend Wendell Anthony.
Good evening to you all. My name is Travis Richardson, and I'm a third-year law student here at the University of Michigan. And I thank you for coming out and sharing with us as we present our symposium, and particularly this evening, our keynote banquet for our symposium toward a new civil rights vision. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. This is the judgment. Life's most persistent question is, what are you doing for others? We have coming to us to give welcoming remarks a man who has decided to walk the path of righteousness, the Reverend Wendell Anthony. I speak for the entire editorial board when I say that we are very pleased to have him here with us today. I am personally proud because, like myself, he is a product of the Detroit public school system. He graduated from Wayne State University with a BA in political science and from Marygrove College with a master's in pastoral ministry. Reverend Anthony was ordained in 1981 and became the associate pastor of Fellowship Chapel in 1983. He became the pastor of Fellowship Chapel in December of 1986, and through faith and the labor of his ministry, the church has experienced the greatest growth in its 29-year history. Fellowship Chapel has a spiritual and social ministry that touches every facet of community life. Reverend Anthony has traveled extensively in West and Southwestern Africa. He leads a group from Detroit, Michigan each year on a special pilgrimage to visit the roots of African Americans and to establish cultural ties between Detroit and Africa. He has held meetings with the African National Congress, the South African Council of Churches, President Nelson Mandela, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and Reverend Alan Bosiek to discuss the current state of affairs inside South Africa. In 1993, Reverend Anthony organized and led a march of over 250,000 persons in the city of Detroit to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the march of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Detroit in June of 1963. This march occurred before the historical march in August of that same year. This was the largest march organized for this purpose since 1963. In 1994, Reverend Anthony was part of a special delegation to the national NAACP leadership to visit South Africa in support of the national elections held in April of 1994. He, along with the delegation, met with various political parties on the ballot and helped to coordinate election activities for South Africans residing in the United States. He most recently organized a Rwanda relief effort in which the Detroit branch of the NAACP raised in excess of $800,000 in monies, clothing, and medical supplies to aid in the Holocaust, or to prevent the Holocaust occurring in Rwanda and Zaire. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Detroit branch of the NAACP, the largest branch in the country, the Reverend Wendell Anthony.
Let me say good evening to everyone. Let me say good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
I was raised by my grandmother, and she always said, boy, when you come into the room, open up your mouth and speak, and so I've been trying to live by that. And so I want, in her honor, to always be respectful. Let me thank Travis for that very fine introduction. I thought for a moment I was the keynote speaker. Um, but I am a preacher and we do take liberties. But nonetheless, I do want to thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to be here and to be a part of your charter or your initial banquet or symposium regarding civil rights, a new vision for the 21st century. It seems almost ironic to some degree, and yet it should not be in others, that when W.E.B. Du Bois almost 100 years ago said that the problem of the 20th century was the problem of the color line, as we find ourselves emerging towards the year 2000, we still seem to see that the problem of the 21st century may yet be the problem of the color line. And so it is with that backdrop that what you do here today is so very important. I do, on behalf of the Detroit branch NAACP, want to extend congratulations and accolades to the Honorable Judge Higginbotham. He is certainly deserving of the kind of recognition that he received recently from the President of the United States, as well as for his long tenure of service to our community. Currently, you may or may not know, he is serving as a coordinator of a committee as search in terms of identifying the new executive director for the national NAACP. And so for that, we are very grateful. But I want to bring you greetings because you come at a very critical hour. You come at a time when our nation seems to be divided among a number of issues, and the race question is no longer a question, it is a fact. We thought that we had crossed the Jordan on a number of things. Unfortunately, OJ and a whole lot of OJs and W's and Z's and X's and Y's and A's and B's and C's remind us that all is not well within the confines of America. And so many of us have had to raise our heads from the sand and to look once again at an issue that is crippling and gripping our nation. But I am a minister. We walk by faith and not by sight. I have faith that students can make a difference in our nation. I have faith that students can bring new energy and new insight into the question of which way America will go. I have faith that students will be able to stand up on the shoulders and the backs and the legs, the sweat, the blood, the tears, the bones of those who have preceded them and claim hold to the destiny that lies ahead of them and make a difference. In 1963, when we came to Washington, I was only 13 years of age. When Dr. King led that march to Washington, D.C., he talked about America and the fact that we had come to claim a check, that we wanted to redeem a check that America had promised this nation. Among that redemption was the fact that we should judge people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. But when we presented the check to the bank, it came back marked insufficient funds. Well, the check is still bouncing. It is bouncing as we strive to regain rights that others will take from us. It comes as we see a turning away of affirmative action. It comes as we see a rise in hate groups with a seed point in Michigan. It comes as we see persons being daring and bold with their racism and their demagoguery, regardless of who they are. I want to share something with you because there's an energy and that is a spirit that is alive and burning in our nation. You also know that there's going to be a march on Monday in Washington, D.C. This march is a march that's attracting young men, old men, unemployed men, employed men, educated men, uneducated men, bus drivers, police officers, lawyers, judges, you name it, they're coming to claim it. In my church, we have registered in my church 7,000 men to go to Washington. We are taking 7,000 men who have registered to go to Washington. That's in my church. From Michigan, hear this, from Michigan, there will be at least 50,000 men going to Washington. That says that there is a hunger and a thirst that is not steeped or rooted in any individual, but it is rooted in the principles of the day. And that is that all is not well within us, and that we have some responsibilities, not only in the civil rights area, but in the economic one. But at the center of that is a spiritual quality that we must start from and begin to march towards. And so I'm pleased and I'm proud as I stand in my center and I see men who've never before in their lives marched anywhere to come and to pay money to get on a bus, to go to Washington, and to turn around and to come back home. Just to say, I was there. I want to make a difference. We've had calls from people in someplace, Mississippi. I say someplace because I don't know the name of the little town. But these are people who've never in their lives marched for anything. Wanted to call us and say, brothers, we're bringing 2 busloads. We just want to be in that number. It is not a march against anyone. It is for someone's. And that is to actualize what God has given to all of us. And that's the ability to be free, to be unhampered, and to be able to claim the genius that lies within all of us. Students from all walks of life will be a part of that. I have hope that America can be changed, but only if you are bold and if you look at our problems directly in the face and you don't sell out to the interests that have no interest in any of us. And so I come to bring you greetings, but also to bring you a challenge. And that is to be bold, to be different, to be uncompromising, and to be on your job. To see it, to claim it, and to work for it, no matter who does not like it. Because the issues against us in America are too critical for any of us to be worrying about what might happen to us personally. So I salute the students here. I salute your cause and what you're about. I pray that it is successful. And I leave you with the words of this old African proverb that says very simply that one does not have to see the teeth of the lion to know that he has a big bite. We are tired of being bit by the lion. And so therefore, there's another proverb that goes with that one. When spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. God bless you. I'm a minister. I don't like to eat and run. We like to eat, but I got to run. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Many, many thanks to you, Reverend Wendell Anthony. We appreciate your inspiring and motivational remarks. At this point, I'd like to call our editor-in-chief, Guy Charles, to read a letter from President Duderstadt.
Good evening. I sincerely regret that I am unable to participate in the Michigan Journal of Recent Law's inaugural symposium toward new civil rights vision. Unfortunately, prior commitments have prevented me from joining you, but I am with you in spirit. We are honored to have such distinguished speakers as A. Leon Higginbotham Jr., Derek Bell Jr., and Kimberly Crenshaw on campus. That these individuals and their colleagues have chosen to assemble to discuss the impact of contemporary legal and social issues on civil rights jurisprudence is sobering. We at the University of Michigan will not retreat from the battle for equity and justice for all individuals. And it is in that spirit that several campus units have joined with the students in sponsoring the symposium. The staff of the Michigan Journal of Recent Law are to be commended for their exemplary efforts in coordinating this two-day event. Their efforts have been as tireless as those of the civil rights leaders, academics, and others who have assembled here today to continue the struggle for civil rights. An exceptional series of activities has been planned, and I envy you your opportunity to marshal the talents of fellow conference participants in charting the course for the contemporary civil rights movement. I wish you the best as you engage in a fruitful discussion, and again, I join you in spirit. James J. Duderstadt.
Now, if you would please go ahead and start your salads, enjoy your dinner. Here today on warrantless searches of public housing projects, making the Fourth Amendment more responsive to society's social problems. He is a very hardworking, focused, patient man, very, very patient, as he had to be in leading us on this historic journey as the first editor-in-chief of the Michigan Journal of Race and Law. Ladies and gentlemen, my very good friend, Mr. Guy Riyad Emmanuel Charles.
I told these guys not to embarrass me. And as you can tell, I am editor-in-chief in name only because they didn't listen. Nobody listens. Good evening. The Michigan Journal of Race and Law, as I guess everybody by now knows, is a new publication at the University of Michigan Law School. The journal was founded last year by a group of Michigan law students, primarily second-year students. There were many factors that contributed to the founding of this journal. I think the first was the perceived need for a forum that addressed race-related issues. It was obvious to many of us that race issues weren't really being dealt with in legal academia, at least not to our satisfaction. It seemed to us that race issues were either relegated to special issues or special classes. Race didn't really have an appropriate place in at least my first-year curriculum. Race had its place in certain classes. There were appropriate times when it was right to talk about race, and there were times when it was not. There were classes when race issues were thought to be relevant, and there were classes in which they were not. For those of us who had a difficulty with turning our race consciousness on and off, these situations were, to put it mildly, a bit disconcerting. Secondly, I think the second reason for starting this journal was because of a lack of student color participation on journals at the law school. Given the importance of journals, as they provide opportunities for publishing, professional advancement, writing instruction, and the like, the scantiness of persons of color on the available journals meant that we, as students of color, were not receiving the benefits incident to journal membership. Thus, we felt that certain steps were needed to remedy these situations. There were two major options that were available to us. One of the options involved lobbying the existing journals to alter their membership policies with an eye toward more diversity. The other option, and the one that we found ultimately to be of greater viability, involved the creation of a journal that took a critical look at the relationship between race and law. Thus, the Michigan Journal of Race and Law was born. The journal owes its existence to a number of people. It owes its existence to the founders of the critical race theory group, now long gone, who were sufficiently foresighted to have built the framework upon which this journal is now founded. For it was in the critical race theory reading group that a lot of us read the works of Professor Bell, Professor Crenshaw, Professor Delgado, Matsuda, Williams, Kennedy, Peller, and many others. And it was in their writings that we felt validated. We knew then that we were not weird because we did not see things in the traditional framework that was being thrust upon us. The journal also owes its existence to Dean Lehman, who when first confronted, and I use that term mildly, with the idea, expressed his support and open-mindedness. Actually, it was at his house we took the opportunity to talk to him, and it was kind of fortuitous that Professor Malamud was right there, and as we ran the idea by Dean Lehman, he said, "Deb, why don't you take care of this?" And the journal also owes its existence to Professor Malamud, who has served in the past year as our faculty advisor. Professor Malamud has helped us draft the initial proposal, which secured the dean's approval. She listened to our ideas and clothed them in reality. She encouraged us when we were down and brought us down when we were up. But it was all good. The journal also owes its existence to Mrs. Doris McCree and Dean Susan Eklund. Between the two of them, I sincerely believe that there is no mountain high enough that cannot be made low, or valley low enough that cannot be raised up. And believe me, if there's a problem at this law school that you need solved, get the both of them together. Everything will be taken care of. But I do believe that the journal owes its existence most of all to the following people, and I'd like to have them stand when I call their name, who have given up countless hours, free time, their sanity to make this happen. There were times when we did fight with each other. There were times when we questioned each other's commitment to race, gender, and like the whole bit. There were times when people got on my nerves and I got on their nerves. And believe me, I don't ever want to be at another 6-hour meeting deciding whether to be develop a hierarchical structure, a non-hierarchical structure, or any kind of a structure. But regardless, we pulled together to make this happen, and we committed to seeing it through to the end. And so I must say that the journal owes its existence to the managing editor, Emmeline V. Kim, who, although behind the scenes, is one of the motivating factors and one of the engine behind this project. Emmeline, if you will please stand. The journal also owes its existence to Mr. Travis Richardson, who, when we were first-year law students, said to me, you know, in his bald-like way, one of the things I'd like to do before we leave this law school is start a critical race theory journal. And of course, as everybody listens to Travis patiently and takes his words seriously, I thought to myself, yeah, sure, right, Travis. But Mr. Richardson was one of the founding members of this journal, and Travis, if you will please stand. The journal must owe its existence to Emily Ho, and the journal owes its existence to Laura Gramling. The journal owes its existence to Pamela Schiffman, and if you guys would please stand. These people are very brilliant, but unfortunately, they didn't really think through before they got involved in this project. It was probably early September when we were trying to figure out what to do. And so we all got together, the group of people that I named, and we kind of said to each other, all right, are you guys in or are you out? And actually, before even thinking about it, they said we're in. And fortunately for us, they really stuck through with it, because these are some of the people that have helped make this possible. I must also say that the journal owes its existence to Derek Bomar, Anthony Harris, Pamela Henry, Christina Chung, Linda Harris Colfax, Ross Romero, and Rochelle Barber. And if you guys would please stand. Lastly but not least, everybody knows of the work, the great, and I must call him the great, because after this, he must be called the great Hardy View, has done. When we were looking for a symposium coordinator, and I remember this meeting very well, and we were trying to think about, okay, who's going to be the symposium coordinator, and how is this all going to happen? And Hardy kind of said, well, you know, I can do that. You know, I guess that's kind of something that I could do. Of course, he never mentioned that he was the president of Duke University. He organized major conferences before. You know, none of those things were mentioned, but obviously now we could tell that, Hardy, this is not your first time, is it? Before I conclude, there are some people here that are not here that must be recognized. My good friend and buddy, Luis Fuentes Rower, is not here. Luis is my left hand or my right hand. He and I have been through this through thick and thin, and he unfortunately could not be here. And Allison Lowry, who also could not be here. But all the people that I've named have had a tremendous part. They have been the ones who have made this happen. The only thing that I have done is basically said, sure, I guess we can do it. That's about it. But they have been the ones who have actually gone through and produced. In concluding, I must say that the purpose of the journal is twofold. One is really to provide a forum where students of color may further their professional and writing abilities, and to think about issues that are impacting them and to react to those issues. Not just students of color, but all of those who are interested in the relationship between race and law. And today, 4 students of color presented their research with fear and trepidation. I could tell you about the trepidation part, before a group of distinguished, they didn't extinguish us, distinguished and intimidating, and I could tell you about the intimidating part, scholars and students. The second purpose of the journal is to establish a critical legal publication that serves as a forum for exploring the relationship between race and law. We know that our work has only just begun, and we also know that we need your help. So for those of you who are professors and lecturers, we ask that you send us your articles and recommend us to your friends, and ask that they send us their articles. For those of you who are employers and judges and whatnot, we ask that when you see the name Michigan Journal of Race and Law on a resume, that you give it a second look. For those of you who are just participating or just here at the event, we ask that you subscribe to our publication and to recommend it to your friends and family members to support this cause, because we must do it together. Now, before I leave, I must share with you a poem from one of my favorite poets. The poem is entitled The Dream Keeper, from Langston Hughes. Bring me all your dreams, you dreamers. Bring me all your heart melodies, that I may wrap them in a blue cloud cloth, away from the too rough fingers of the world. Sometimes law school has a way of killing our dreams. Sometimes we come to these places full of hope, optimism, idealism, and vigor. But by our second year, the only thing we care about is getting that job and getting out of here. But hopefully this journal will help to wrap away our dreams from the too rough fingers of a hostile environment. And hopefully all of us, those who are here now and those who follow us, who come here wanting to change the world, will leave here knowing at least where to start. Those of us who come here wanting to be professors will not be turned off or be discouraged. Those of us who come here who dream, wanting to make a difference, will find the journal a space where dreams are kept, safe and sound. Thank you.
Now we come to the moment we've all been waiting for, my introduction.